recently, like in the last 12 months, we've heard from a lot of teachers saying that they feel dysregulated in their own classrooms.
Yeah.
The chaos and the noise of reading groups could send you into that spiral.
Sometimes you just need to maybe give yourself a rest of looking on social media and go, do you know what I've got is sufficient enough for my class. I don't need to add more. Adding more is just adding to your load. Sometimes take the prompt from the kids too.
Rainbow Sky Creations acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we record this podcast on, the Dharawal and Whadjuk Noongar people. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.
Welcome back to Rainbow Skies for Teachers. We try and be positive around here, Alicia, but today we're going to talk about the things that we hate about reading groups.
Yes, because sometimes talking about the things you hate can lead to you looking for a solution that allows you then to bloody love it in the end. And I'm going to be honest, me and reading groups who have never had a great rap. I remember so much of my PD in my early career was focusing on reading groups. It was like a real anxious spot for me. Like I felt like I was never doing it well enough. And there was this kind of deep-seated hatred towards it. But as I got more information and as I managed to put things in place, by the time I wrapped up my time in the classroom, I really loved my reading group sessions. They were my favourite.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about the systems as we go along. It's because you have the most amazing system with how you run them. And that's probably why, because it was easier, right?
Absolutely. And you were better in charge of knowing what was happening or what to predict. And you'd kind of managed that. You'd put systems in place and then you could start to like really enjoy your time with your students and see the gains they were making. But yeah, how do you fix that thing you hate? And that's where we're here to help.
So there's not really an excuse for not running reading groups in your classroom, even if you do hate them. But let's talk about some things that we personally don't like about reading groups.
Yeah. So you've got to run reading groups, running reading sessions. So it's, oh God, the classroom management. Come on. That's never fun.
So much classroom management. Keeping the kids on task while you're working with a small group, it can sometimes feel impossible. Like,
I'm just working out.
They should be doing, right?
Yeah. And working out who goes in what group. Yeah. It's annoying. So classroom management.
There's always someone not doing the right thing. There's always somebody throwing things that they shouldn't be throwing.
There's always that kid who hasn't bought into what you're trying to sell and they're trying to deviate everyone off topic, you know? So, fun times.
Exactly. Classroom management is a headache when it comes to reading groups.
Managing differentiation. Ooh, yeah. Isn't that at the top of every teacher's, like, how do I do this better list, or has been at some point in their career?
Yes. I don't think anyone's got differentiation like completely worked out, because finding time to cater for every single student's need in your class is overwhelming. And you could be working a 24-hour day and still not meet those needs.
It's the recipe for burnout. It's going, am I tapping into at least 60%? You know what I mean? Is 50% of my class like... Oh, you might go, well, that's a really low percentage, but sometimes you've got to drop that percentage down while you're trying to learn the skills to get better at managing differentiation, to then be like, if I've got 80% of my class nailing it and 20% need more practice and repetition, then you're like, no, I'm making gains. This is good. So that's one other thing.
Yeah.
What's another thing?
Else? The chaos and noise if it's not done right. Like, I'm just visualizing my kindergarten days, and if I had not taught how to set up those groups well, it is chaotic. That noise level rises as you're trying to sit with your small group, and then your voice is rising, like trying to yell over the top of them to talk to your group about what you're doing. It's just heart palpitations. I can feel it now.
You can feel your nervous system just completely atrophy and go shutting down. It's like, why is the teacher rocking in the corner back there? Why has she got her AirPods in? Like, what's going on? I've got those loop earplugs I wear to sleep just to kind of take the edge off. Where I live on the coast in Perth, and it is windy and the wind can keep me up at night. Not my kids screaming for me. So I will put earplugs in that kind of mute the sound. And our neurospicy friends would probably be like, I resonate with that. And I know now.
Do that in the classroom though.
I reckon you could to an extent, but you're going to put, but depending on what lesson it is, like if it's an art lesson or whatever, like you'd be like, oh, I just don't need to hear what everybody's saying. And people can talk to you and you can still hear them. It just mutes the sound. But we're just saying we don't want your reading sessions to be like that, where it's triggering the need for you to have to put your earplugs in.
Yes.
So, that's one thing.
From so many teachers, I always did my reading groups at the beginning of the day, probably because I wanted to get them over and done with. Like, it was the first thing that I always did. But I can see you do it very first thing, and then you dysregulate yourself, and then you're unregulated as the adult in the room for the remainder of the day. It's not good.
No, it's not good at all. I'm just trying to remember, we've got this amazing episode that we had and that it's completely fallen out of my brain. But if it comes back to me, I'm going to let you know and I'll tag it in the show notes.
Give us a clue, so I can help you.
It's about the one where I spoke to a beautiful lady, Canadian lady, and they have about introducing mindfulness into their lessons and they just integrate it on a daily basis. If you know that reading sessions are going to be something that can get a bit chaotic, you start with some grounding activities, whether that's breathing, but getting your kids focused into the zone for learning. It's a really great episode and it's something that I know would benefit everybody in the classroom, especially the teacher. So
was it episode 55 with Giselle?
No, but that's also a good one. Every beautiful listener here, I have found the episode. It's episode 39, where we talk about how co-regulation can positively change your teaching for better. And it was Kaylee, the beautiful Kaylee from the Balance Educator podcast I spoke to, and have an amazing platform. So if this is something where you feel dysregulated in your own classroom, we need to fix that for you. And a great starting point is having a chat with Kaylee. That's my words of wisdom for the chaos and noise, and we'll give you some more further on in this episode.
And link it in the show notes too.
100%.
Link that one in the show notes. Okay, another thing, and I don't know, Alicia, I don't know if you feel the same way, but the mess drives me crazy at the end of reading groups.
Well, it drives me crazy in my household at the moment. But yes, the mess, the papers, where do they go? Why are they here?
Yeah, the materials. Like if you've got hands-on games, there's always leftover things. And then, an hour later, I found a counter, I found a die. Yes, go and put it away. I know the mess can be annoying.
Absolutely. And then the other thing is the interruptions. Like if you're with a group or you're with some students and then you've got that little tap on your shoulder or that mess and it's like new mums out there, you get it. Mom. It's like, oh gosh, we've got to teach you how to be more self-sufficient.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, and I think this is like tying everything up in a neat bow, is the stress. Mm-hmm. All of these things we've listed is when we don't have a clear system. And when we don't have a clear system, reading groups can feel exhausting instead of productive, and it is stressful. It's not easy.
No, not at all. So you're like, yeah, Alicia and Ash, totally agree with you. I hate all these things about reading groups, or I hate this about just any old lesson. So what can you do to make it easier on yourself? So we've got 4 words of wisdom for you, and we're not going to leave you on your own to solve it.
No.
The first one's a great one.
The first one's a great one. So the first solution is to have a foolproof system, which is what we spoke about at the beginning, Alicia, with you having an amazing system for your classroom. So the key to create smooth reading groups is to have a system that works for you and works for your class. It means clear expectations, structured routines, and knowing what happens at each reading station. So what are some things that we can try to put all of this into practice? Because that sounds great, but they're just words.
They are. So when we're talking about have clear expectations for the independent activities. So we like to do a dress rehearsal where we bring out it might be your top 5 activities kids are going to love from past experience or from other teachers that I've told you. So you bring out these 5 activities and you show them this is what the tools are. This is where it's stored. This is how you play the game. This is how you pack it away. This is what happens if you need help. Who do you talk to? The people in your group. And you do a dress rehearsal. So you pull these games out and you practice it. You might have these games out for that first few weeks as your morning activities. When kids would come into my classroom at the start of the day, when the doors open, I might have this activity out for them to get practice in playing it. So it becomes automatic. So they know the rules, they know the instructions, they get practice in teaching someone who comes into the class or a sibling who might come in and teaches them how to play the game. make clear expectations for those independent activities.
And just to be clear on that is when you're doing the dress rehearsal, you're not running a group as the teacher. So everyone's doing an activity like you would normally do with reading groups, but you as the teacher are monitoring and correcting behaviours and reminding students what they need to do. So when it comes time to go and do the activity and read with a group yourself, the kids know what they are doing and they've had that input from an adult beforehand. So you're not trying to do it while reading with your group, you're getting those taps on the shoulder. That's not fun. So that's what we're trying to eliminate here.
Yeah.
The other thing is sticking to a predictable schedule. Consistency is everything when it comes to kids, and it can make our lives easier as a teacher too. So have a similar schedule. What groups read with you on a Monday? What groups read with you on a Tuesday? What sort of activities are you doing? Is one activity always a listening activity and one's a game and one's a reading to a partner? Or do you have a writing station and a reading station? It depends on how you want to set up the activities. Make it predictable. You don't want it to be higgledy-piggledy, different activities every single week, and you're spending so much time explaining and then the expectations are different. It's just a recipe for confusion.
Like for me, it would be one day you're reading with the teacher, the next day you're doing the follow-up activities from when you read with the teacher, usually hello, my friend, comprehension, vocabulary. We had iPads, so kids would always have one session doing like a text session, whatever that looks like, reading eggs, phonics, spelling. And then it would be like a game. And usually I had like a writing task. And I kind of stuck with that 5 for the term. And then I might change it up the next term and take one out and add another one in. Depending on your numbers and everything, you might have it like a week A and a week B. This is where I just want to do a shout out to our amazing friend Tam and Jez from Mrs. Learning Bee. They have made this amazing platform called The Hive, and they have it set up where you can have this information at a fingertips touch, where you have inputted what your reading group timetable looks like, where you are literally going in and going, all right, this is Monday, this is the schedule for Monday, and my kids know it, the names of who's in that group and the activities they do. It takes the thinking out of it for you because you've automated it. Their platform they have is phenomenal. I would so be using it in my classroom. So if you...
Amazing. And it's just right up there on the screen too. So you put it all in, the kids can see it, you can see it. It's super clear. They've thought about how kids learn, about age appropriateness. It's wonderful.
So if you've seen The Hive or you're interested about it, we're going to link it in the show notes. We have a little special offer for our listeners. If you want to check out The Hive, they do a 14-day free trial. And then what they offer is phenomenal. If you're like, oh my God, I need a foolproof system where I don't have to think about what's happening because I've automated it, this is The Hive. Go check it out. All right.
And use the code so you get that sneaky little discount as well.
Absolutely. So have a foolproof plan, the running of groups, how it's organised, and then just lastly, the thing that used to give me a bit of heart palpitations was, what am I doing with the kids I'm working with, right? So your foolproof system is you have a set of books or texts that you're doing for a week. If not, oh my gosh, yeah, you can do it for 2 weeks, the same text, and be like, all right, I'm going to make sure I'm listening to every student read. We're going to have time for discussion, time to talk about whatever that focus might be with that group. But you have a little system for that group as well as what's happening with the other groups. And then you feel more confident because you go, I'm just going to rinse and repeat every single week.
Absolutely. You know, Jen Jones from Hello Literacy, she has a great idea that I wish I knew this when I was in the classroom, but she gets her students that are working with the teacher to come and sit down, and they have a book that they've previously read, so a familiar reader, and they read to themselves with this familiar reader just while she settles everyone else. And then she comes and works with them. And I think that's great because I always found that sometimes that group would come and they'd be a little bit silly because they've got nothing to do. So you're settling everyone else and then you come over to your group and then you've got to settle them. Having this sort of system set up where they come and read, we know that that's great for them. It's a really good little warm up, but also they are settled going into that lesson.
Yes. This is where you put the time and energy into setting up those systems and setting it up with your class. And I promise you, it's going to be such a better experience for everybody, because who doesn't feel more calm and in control of a situation when they know what to expect? So foolproof.
100%. Okay, so solution number 2 is having a bank of ready-to-go resources. Now, this is another thing that teachers struggle with, like what is everyone else doing in the class while I'm sitting with my group? So that's one of the biggest challenges, and planning for all of the different levels, like we spoke about differentiation earlier. But having a bank of pre-prepared resources can be a game changer, not only for your brain power, but also for the students knowing exactly what is expected of them.
Absolutely. So we would love to pick activities that we knew the students were going to enjoy. And if you're introducing a new game, pair it up with familiar games and then add it in and see if it becomes a new popular favorite. And if they like that type of game, teacher creators end up making games with a similar type of pattern because we know students like it, and it's an easy way for them to learn a new skill without having to learn a new set of game instructions. Like I said before, maybe you pick 5 that you want to get your kids to be familiar with for your reading sessions that you're going to have on repeat for that term, and you might introduce 3 new ones throughout the term. You know, every 2 weeks you might go, all right, let's add a new one into it. Any sort of vocabulary game, like an activity where they're practicing their vocabulary. I loved doing sentence starters. I had some students who just loved writing. So if I had sentence starters writing prompts, that was an activity they liked. I think silly sentences can never go out the window.
Oh, they're great. Kids love them.
Yeah. And for you, you might have kids who can't wait to do something like my daughter just started doing reading eggs. And you're like, leverage what they're interested in if it's going to get them practicing a concept. Not saying, oh, you're doing reading eggs every single day. It's that one thing they're motivated to do that they know they get to do once a week. As enticing as it is with all the variety out there with games and activities and new things being created, sometimes you just need to maybe give yourself a rest of looking on social media and go, do you know what I've got is sufficient enough for my class. I don't need to add more. Adding more is just adding to your load. Sometimes take the prompt from the kids too. I would have kids who'd be like, Miss, we played that game before. Can we have a new one? And you'd be like, oh, cool. Thanks for letting me know. I appreciate the feedback. Let's go find a new game.
Yeah. Listen for those little yes. You know, when you say, oh, we're doing this today. Yes. You know that you're onto a winner there. If you feel like, oh, that's all well and good, but I don't even have somewhere to start with good stuff, we have put together some packs just ready to get you started with different games and activities you could do in reading groups. So you can download it. We've got one for kindergarten, grade 1 and 2, grades 3 and 4, grades 5 and 6. And we group them in those double grades. A, if you have a composite class, but B, it really helps with differentiation. It provides a range of activities. So if you're looking for new activities and you just want one place to go and you don't want to think about it, we will link those resources up in the show notes.
Yeah, they're great starter pack. And once you get your feet and you get your confidence, you're ready to delve out there and find some other awesome materials for your class. So number 3.
Solution 3 is routines that your class knows and understands.
Yes. So going back with that foolproof system, this is where you're really going to nut out those routines. What does reading sessions look like in your classroom? For me, they always started on the mat, everyone together. It always started with us doing a quick little explicit teaching lesson together, whether we're practicing compound words or we're fine-tuning our clue finding for inferential questions. We were always starting with some form of explicit instruction that didn't go on for hours.
No, just like
and then
quick 5 minutes is enough, you know?
Yeah, be like 5-10 minutes with my year 3s. I'll be like, all right, we've got 10 minutes. And then we would go into our small group activities. So have a think in your mind, how would you like the routine of your reading sessions to operate?
Exactly. As I said at the beginning, when I taught kindergarten, we came in, we marked the role, and then we went straight into reading groups. So the kids knew exactly what they needed to do and everything was set up, ready to go. You need to explicitly teach your students what they need to do, but also what they cannot do or what is not acceptable during reading group time as well. So things like, while I'm working with a small group, please don't come and ask me a question about the activity. Ask 3 before me. Or if you need to go to the toilet, here is the symbol for that. It's okay to interrupt me if you are bleeding or dying.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, I mean, like you said, symbols, sign language is such a great form of communication that doesn't involve energy for anyone. It's a body movement and a nod from you, right? Or a shake of the head. You know how we talked about the mess? Like, what do I do with all these papers? Yeah. This is the time for you to set up a routine with your class, right? Like we had our literacy books and my students knew that any form of writing task will be done in their literacy books. when they went to that station, their books were already there with the writing prompt for them to glue in and to write in. If my students had loose sheets, they knew they put it back in their folder, each of my groups. I can't remember what they were named. Anyway, not really important, just going back for nostalgic reasons. But they knew any papers I gave my students were in a coloured folder, transparent, like say we got pink, I would have already written their names on it. So if the kid was absent, I knew who hadn't filled it in, and they would complete it. And I wouldn't get them to glue it in their books because it was harder for me to mark. I would put it back in, they'd put it back in their folder, and then I would mark it at the end of that session. And they knew the following session that they had to glue it in their literacy book, right? But this isn't something they're going to do on day one. This is something you have done in your dress rehearsal to establish your routines, so you're not dying from all the paper. Your students knew that when we did a game, it was all packed up into this folder and went back into that section so that it was ready for the next class, the next group. Yeah. So you do have to put a bit of thought into it before you execute it.
But you'll reap the rewards. I would really encourage teachers to do less paperwork during this reading group time as well, because as a teacher, your main purpose in this reading group time is to sit with the group that you're reading with, and you don't want to add more and more and more to your time. So as they're getting older, grades 3, 4, 5 and 6, you can get one group to be doing some sort of recording, but in the younger grades, get them to be doing hands-on activities. We know that that's great for their learning anyway. They're going to be more excited about writing on a whiteboard than they are on a piece of paper, and then you need to mark it at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Whiteboards, whatever it might be, blocks with letters on it, magnetic letters, anything that's going to get them using their hands, but also practicing that skill. Because we know in our early years, we're really wanting to build on that phonemic awareness and all that beautifulness. And have your visuals. Like, just make sure you've got your visuals there. And that's where we talk where something like the Hive comes in handy. You might have a board, like I always used to have a bulletin board at the front designated for our reading or literacy, where it might have the sounds that we're working on or the vocabulary that we're building on, or whatever anchor chart that was relevant, whether we're doing inferential questions or, sequencing. So you have a place where kids know where to get the information from. Routines. Probably could talk about it more than I should, and practice what you preach, Alicia. Practice what you preach.
I know, routines. I feel like there should be a university subject when we learn to be primary school teachers just called routines.
I think for adulting, I feel like it should be for adults. Like, it should be in high school. There is some health teacher or someone who's just like, this is what you need to live your life. It's called routines. Here, let's get started.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we've got one final tip for you, which is probably the bit that teachers don't like.
Yes. So the final solution is about planning efficiently. So effective planning for your reading groups doesn't need to take hours. And don't worry, we have been there too, spending hours and hours planning for reading groups that's only going to run for half an hour or 40 minutes of your day. So what you need to do is find a system that streamlines your planning and that will help you stay organised without adding more to your plate. So what are some things that we can try to do this, Alicia?
Batch your planning for your reading sessions, allocate a time.
Batching mean?
All right, you're going to plan a couple of weeks, 3, 4, it depends. I used to batch for 2 weeks in advance. So I would pick every second Thursday afternoon, I'd be going up to where the reading books were stored, and I would get the books that I needed, and then I'd kind of work from there. I always found the most amount of work was put into my small group planning of what is each group working on, because I've targeted specifically to their needs. So I need to put a bit of effort into it. And then for those 2 weeks, I'd go, all right, pulling out my 4 activities that the other groups are going to do. And it would be the same for those 2 weeks. So it would be on repeat every 2 weeks. So in essence, instead of planning 10 times in the term, I'd be only planning 5 times for the term. And you might find sometimes for the older grades, you might only need to plan 3 times in the term because you're doing a novel study and you got a longer text to get through. Maybe in the younger years, you batch for, you could probably, I feel like for the younger years, you can kind of batch for 4 weeks maybe, where you go, we're going to have these groups of activities that are going to be on repeat, and you could have it ready to go. So you want to utilize your brain space and put all your energy for that 1 hour on a one specific topic, and you're going to get through it faster rather than switching gears all the time to go, oh no, reading groups, maths groups, planning, assembly prep. Just go, this is my reading focus time, and put it in your calendar.
Yeah, batching actually helps with the flow too. So as you go on, you're going to find that flow and it's going to get quicker, which is amazing. The next tip for this is to use a simple planning template to quickly jot down the activities. You don't need to put a huge amount of detail in this. When I say this, I kind of laugh because in my second and third year of teaching, we had this assistant principal that expected the world. She expected a thesis about our reading groups, and it made me hate it even more, like the paperwork. I just thought this was pointless. So depending on what your school expects, you might have to adjust this but using something that's simple that you can easily jot down or type in however you work and it's there ready to go. I actually think the Hive, I bet that's got some sort of amazing template you could use too.
You know, Tam and Jez would have thought of it. They're such literacy amazing people. They're thinking of the problem and what the solution would be in the most efficient way. So honestly, check out the Hive. We can't stress it enough. And like we mentioned before, reuse and rotate effective activities. Don't reinvent the wheel if you don't need to. So you'll find
a game. Why then create a new game the following week? And if the kids liked it, run with it. And
it's
laminate your games too. Save you some time there. Print them on card and it just makes life a lot easier.
Yeah, put them in a wipe and write sleeve and kids are none the wiser, at all. And like you would have templates for your planning, you're just going to say duplicate and then add in what you need to. And that's a bit what your planning is like with your reading groups. You just go, all right, duplicate. Or I always found sometimes when I was planning for my small group, I'd go, oh, cool. My squares are up to where my triangles are. So I just need to take that information and get that same book I did last term and just do it with the next group. They're ready to go with it. So once you've got a good little system, you're storing it well in your digital cloud, you'll be ready to go.
You will.
So
I feel like we've spoken about so much today, those 4 different solutions. So we had having a foolproof system, have a bank of ready-to-go resources, have routines that your class know and understands, and a way to plan efficiently. That's a lot of information. But we have actually compiled all of that information together if you want to make your life and reading groups even easier.
Yes, we've got a course, Transform Your Reading Groups. It's a step-by-step guide. You could do it in a weekend.
Yeah, it's quick. There's not a huge amount of sitting down and learning. We tried to make it short and sweet and straight to the point about systems, processes, things you can put into place that just has your reading groups humming along. And it actually also includes those activities that we mentioned earlier too. So not only will you know how to set up your reading groups, how to plan efficiently, how to differentiate all of these problems that we spoke about at the beginning, you also have a bank of go-to activities. So you just print them out and off you go.
Yeah. So we'll walk you through it. We'll show you how we run our lessons. And teachers just love the simple steps. It seems achievable from the start because we promise it is. And the best bit is you start to see that massive growth in your students' reading and literacy skills. And that is what it's all about.
Absolutely. Once you feel like you are organised, then you get to see that growth in your students, which is absolutely amazing. So the link to Transform Your Reading Groups will be in the show notes.
Woohoo. We hope you have a fabulous rest of the week.
Yeah, what a fun episode. We're going to be back next week, aren't we?
Always. Until next time, there are rainbows ahead, my friend.
And together, we're unstoppable.
Thanks for choosing to listen to Rainbow Skies for Teachers, the go-to show dedicated to teachers who want to make a big difference in education.
If you enjoyed the episode, please leave us a 5-star review or share the episode with a friend. Because together, we're
unstoppable.